Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. The dramatic takedown a short time ago. After the terror attack near the Christmas market, SWAT teams moving in quickly late today, surrounding the suspect and killing him. We're on the scene tonight. In New York City, the stunning images, the explosive backdraft. More than 200 firefighters on the scene. We're also tracking the major storm moving across the country. The accidents on highways already. And now the East bracing for a Friday travel nightmare. Rob Marciano standing by with the new track. Police racing to a school today tipped off an armed teenager was on his way to that school too. They arrive at the same time. The boy shoots his way in. And what happens next? Hundreds of fake bomb threats called into schools, hospitals, and businesses across the country. What the FBI is now saying tonight. President Trump tonight, the new interview, what he's now saying about Michael Cohen after he was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. And the judge on Fox News and what he said about the President of the United States committing a felony. The military jet crashing in the waters off Honolulu, the pilot ejecting, you'll see the moment, then floating in the water. The rare bear attack, the mother dragged away from her home. She is in critical condition. And the human heart found on a flight over the U.S. They had to turn the plane around.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Thursday night. Several developing stories as we come on the air. We're going to begin tonight with the dramatic takedown late today after that deadly terror attack near a famous Christmas market in France. SWAT teams just a short time ago flooding the neighborhood where the suspect was last seen. More than 700 heavily armed officers and soldiers involved in the hunt. They used a helicopter overhead to pinpoint the suspect. Then the break. The suspect found on this street where he opened fire, police firing back, killing him. ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is on the scene tonight.
Tonight, gunfire here in Strasbourg as police moved in on the prime suspect in the Christmas market terror attack. 3 police officers approached a man matching the description of 29-year-old Sharif Sherakat, who'd been hiding in his own neighborhood after fleeing the scene of the attack in a hijacked taxi. As police approached the suspect, he turned his gun on the officers. They returned fire and killed him. A man's body could be seen laying in this doorway. Tonight, police investigators on the scene gathering evidence, locking down the area, swarming this car. Also tonight, celebration in the same neighborhood. It comes just over 48 hours after Sherakat opened fire near that famous Christmas market, killing 3 people, wounding a dozen, some seriously. This man was with his girlfriend just steps away from the gunman that night.
It's terrifying, and the shooter continue to shoot.
Ian Pannell joined us live tonight from the scene of that takedown, and French police say this was a case of homegrown terror. And Ian, tonight, do they believe he acted alone?
Yeah, good question, David. The French Interior Minister is saying that they don't believe that there were any accomplices. However, they are keeping an open mind. As you can see behind me, the investigation continues. Meanwhile, the mayor of Strasbourg thanking the police for their work, saying people can go back to normal. However, as that famous Christmas market reopens, it will be a new normality and people will be extra vigilant. David?
All right, Ian Pannell, who's been on this for days for us. Thank you, Ian. Back here at home tonight and to the dramatic video of a fire here in New York City sweeping through an entire city block. Then suddenly a massive backdraft, flames, smoke exploding from the front of the building, knocking firefighters right off their feet. 12 people were injured, 7 of them firefighters, and ABC's Lindsay Davis is on the scene there tonight.
The fire broke out in a storefront in Queens, New York around 2:15 a.m., quickly growing to 5 alarms, engulfing the block. Firefighters fighting flames on the roof, attempting to pry open a front door when suddenly a powerful explosion, engulfing multiple firefighters in clouds of smoke, sending them scrambling for safety. Watch again. The blast injuring 7 firefighters and 5 civilians.
We're suspecting a backdraft type of situation, a smoke explosion which caused the structure to collapse.
The result, 6 businesses, many of them decades old, gutted tonight.
I was outside and I couldn't breathe. I had to go.
Major fire here going on, guys.
One witness says he saw 3 firefighters on the ground after they were blown out of a basement. 6 families from a neighboring building had to be evacuated. now displaced from their homes just before Christmas.
All right, so let's get to Lindsay Davis. She's live from the scene of that fire in Queens. And Lindsay, still no word on a cause of this fire?
That's right, David. Still no word on a cause just yet. As far as the injuries, they are all reported to be minor, with the exception of one civilian who was seriously injured with fractures, but is expected to survive. And that thick, charred smell still all throughout the air here, David.
It was an incredible scene today. All right, Lindsay, thank you. Next tonight to the major storm moving across the country. Snow, fierce winds, and dangerous rain for drivers tomorrow. It will affect travel on the roads and in the air. In Salt Lake City, more than 250 crashes already. Drivers dealing with treacherous roads in Frisco, Colorado. And look at the map tonight. The storm battering the south, then moving into the east and right up into the northeast Friday and into the weekend. Meteorologist Rob Marciano with the latest track for us tonight. Hey, Rob.
Hi, David. This storm now expanding its reach. It's going to go over part of the country that does not need any more rain. Here it is, jet stream digging down to the south, tapping moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. We're seeing heavy rain right now from Biloxi all the way up through St. Louis, back around Tulsa, even some winter precipitation just to the west of Fort Worth, and flood watches posted for the East Coast. Here's this time it out with the heavy rain in Tallahassee, Georgia in the morning, then the Carolinas in the afternoon. Could see some strong storms, by the way, as it heads towards the coastline, then getting over North Carolina and Virginia, where there's still snow from this week's storm. Heavy rain getting into D.C. and New York might stall here over the weekend, leading for a messy weekend in the Northeast. David?
Rob Marciano with us again tonight. Thank you, Rob. A real scare at a middle school in Indiana today. Police racing to a school after they were tipped off an armed teenager was on his way to the school, too. They arrived at the same time. The boy then shot his way into the school, and there was an exchange of gunfire before the student took his own life. Here's ABC's Alex Perez.
The panic and chaos unfolding at this Indiana middle school at about 8 this morning when a 14-year-old boy showed up outside the school with a gun.
Rescue and all medics need you to stay in the area. We have school shootings in this middle school.
Investigators say they got a tip, placed Dennis Middle School in Richmond, Indiana on lockdown, and had police on the way when the gunman arrived.
They confronted him. He shot out the glass to the door, entered the school. The officers pursued.
Those officers shooting at the suspect, who fired back before taking his own life. Emotional and in shock, parents reuniting with their children.
Very relieved to have my daughter back.
Authorities tonight searching the gunman's home and crediting that phone tip with saving lives.
Had they not made that call, there is no doubt in my mind that we would be having a much different conversation here right now.
All right, Alex Perez with us tonight. And Alex, you're learning more about the 14-year-old.
David, investigators have not released any details on a possible motive, but say the gunman was not a student at the school. Those investigators tonight repeatedly thanking whoever called police to warn them about what was about to happen. David?
Absolutely. Alex Perez tonight. Thank you, Alex. We're going to turn next year to the wave of fake bomb threats on schools and businesses across the country today. The unsubstantiated threats sent in emails demanding ransom or that a bomb would be set off. The NYPD and other agencies quickly determining that threats were not credible, they believe, but they were forced to track down the claims just in case in these cases. And of course, it set off real alarm. Let's get right to Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas now. And Pierre, we know federal authorities are now involved in this.
Yes, David, the FBI investigating this wave of fake bomb threats, prompting scenes like this across the country. Dozens of offices and schools evacuated, hundreds of students seen streaming out of classrooms, some put on lockdown. Law enforcement officials describing the threats as not credible, calling them crude attempts at disruption and to extort money. These hoaxes are very frustrating to law enforcement officials. They are responsible, and they say that they face felony charges and up to 5 years in prison if they catch the people, David.
They cause alarm and they take time from law enforcement around the country. Pierre Thomas, our thanks to you. Trump firing back tonight after his former fixer and personal attorney Michael Cohen was sentenced to prison. President Trump now saying he never directed Cohen to break the law and that Cohen, a lawyer, was supposed to know the law. Here's ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl.
The president today is pushing back against his former lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen, who says then candidate Donald Trump directed him to make illegal hush money payments to women during the campaign.
I never directed him to do anything wrong. Whatever he did on his own.
But it's not just Cohen. The publisher of the National Enquirer, longtime Trump friend David Pecker, told federal prosecutors he too worked with Trump and Cohen to suppress stories of women alleging affairs, and that he did so to protect Trump's campaign. President Trump's story about the hush payments has changed over time. First, he told the American people he knew nothing.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
Then he said he only knew after the fact.
Did you know about the payments?
Later on, I knew. Later on.
Now he calls the payment to porn star Stormy Daniels a simple private transaction and says it's Michael Cohen's fault if it broke any laws.
He's a lawyer. A lawyer who represents a client is supposed to do the right thing. That's why you pay them a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera.
But on Fox News, the normally Trump-friendly former judge Andrew Napolitano said prosecutors have evidence the President of the United States has committed a felony and that Trump can't put all the blame on his former lawyer.
The felony is paying Michael Cohen to commit a felony. It's pretty basic. Somebody hires you, A hires B to shoot someone. A is as liable as if he had pulled the trigger. You pay someone to commit a crime, they commit the crime, you are liable, criminally liable.
So let's get to John Carl. He's live at the White House tonight. And John, President Trump has said he is not concerned. And do we have any idea if his legal team is concerned about the possibility that he could be indicted?
David, the president's legal team is confident that the Justice Department agrees with them that a sitting president cannot be indicted. As for whether or not they are concerned that he could face indictment after he leaves office, his legal team is much more concerned about things right here and now than something that far off, David.
All right, John Carl, live at the White House tonight. John, thanks as always. And just moments ago, George Stephanopoulos sitting down for an interview with Michael Cohen. That interview airs tomorrow morning right here on Good Morning America. In the meantime, tonight, new details about that Russian woman we have reported on here before, Maria Butina. She was in court today pleading guilty to conspiring to act as a Russian agent here in the U.S. and now agreeing to cooperate with U.S. prosecutors in any investigation here. So why was she really here? ABC's Kira Phillips again tonight.
Tonight, Maria Butina pleading guilty to conspiracy, admitting she was sent here by Russia to build back-channel connections with prominent American conservatives as part of a covert influence operation. Butina, a Russian gun rights activist, says her boyfriend, GOP operative Paul Erickson, introduced her to top officials in the NRA.
In Russia, I'm the founder and now I'm the board member of the Right to Bear Arms.
She also says she even brought powerful former NRA leaders to Moscow to meet with top Russian officials. She told her Russian contact with close ties to the Kremlin, "We will put pressure on them quietly later." She also met prominent Republican politicians, posing for a picture with Donald Trump Jr., even asking his father a question about Russia in 2015.
Do you want to continue the politics of sanctions?
I know Putin, and I'll tell you what, we get along with Putin.
Butina told Moscow she had laid the groundwork for an unofficial channel of communication with the next U.S. administration. But tonight she has flipped, pledging to cooperate with the Justice Department.
So now she has flipped, pledging to cooperate. Kira Phillips with us from Washington. And Kira, what about the American Republican operative who introduced Butina to the NRA members? Is he in legal jeopardy now?
Oh, well, he could be, David, for sure. He's reportedly under investigation, but his lawyer's saying tonight Paul Erickson has never done anything to hurt our country and never would. David?
Kira Phillips with us again tonight. Thank you, Kira. We have learned tonight that an American college student was fatally stabbed in the Netherlands. 21-year-old Sarah Poppenheim, a Minnesota native studying abroad, died in the attack inside her Rotterdam apartment. A 23-year-old Dutch man living in the same building was arrested for the killing 60 miles away. Authorities tonight have not revealed a motive. Next here tonight, the dramatic scene off a crowded tourist beach in Hawaii. A military jet crashing into the waters off Honolulu. The pilot ejecting just in time. You can see it there. People watching it. The pilot surviving, but tonight he's recovering from serious injuries, and ABC's Martha Raddatz has the images.
It was just off Honolulu's Waikiki Beach. The 1950s-era fighter jet rapidly losing altitude. The pilot, 47-year-old Navy veteran Matt Pothier, ejecting just before the single-engine jet hit the water. Tourists watching aghast from a nearby boat, then rushing to the rescue.
I was seeing if he was okay.
if anything was hurting, and then he was like, no, he's like, I'm just tangled in my parachute.
Pauthier's jet was part of a Hawaii Air National Guard exercise. The former Navy F-18 pilot was flying as a civilian contract pilot. The military often hires contractors to simulate enemy fighters in these exercises.
Martha Raddatz with us from our Washington bureau tonight. And Martha, what do we know about the pilot's condition tonight?
Well, Pauthier is scheduled to have surgery for non-life-threatening injuries, but he is in great spirits and the family thankful no one else was injured. David?
That is good news, Martha. Thank you. Next tonight, to the joyful scene in Clear Creek, West Virginia, after the rescue from that abandoned coal mine. 3 people were reunited with their families overnight after nearly 5 days with no food, only mine water to drink. They allegedly went in looking for copper to then sell themselves, but they admitted they came out with regrets.
This is the biggest lesson I've ever learned in my life. This is a life-changing experience for me.
Definitely.
Authorities say they could now face criminal charges. Those charges have not been filed. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Thursday. The rare bear attack, the mother dragged from outside her home. She is in critical condition tonight. The urgent effort now underway to try to find the bear. The human heart found on a flight over the U.S. They had to turn the jet around as it was flying across the country. At the new space race tonight, Virgin Galactic flying their own astronauts right to the edge of space. You'll see their pictures tonight. Pretty incredible. Our U.S. tourists next. Next tonight, here to the bear attack in Pennsylvania. A mother dragged away from her home. She is now in critical condition tonight, and they are hunting for that bear. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, a terrifying encounter in Pennsylvania after a bear grabs a woman who was outside her home with her dog and drags her by the leg for almost the length of a football field.
You have a 51-year-old female was attacked by a bear. She's inside the house now.
Her 3-year-old Chihuahua going after the bear, potentially saving her life. Melinda LeBaron was severely injured, ending up with a head injury, broken bones, and deep wounds. Her family setting up a GoFundMe page.
We're looking into the circumstances of how that occurred, why that occurred, and trying to identify the particular bear.
The dog's barking, perhaps mimicking the advice experts tell humans to use an assertive voice and make loud noises if confronted by a bear. Authorities are still searching for that bear. And David, one of the problems in finding this bear is that there's no snow on the ground, so authorities can't see the bear's tracks. Meanwhile, that woman is in critical condition right now. David.
All right, Gio, thank you. When we come back, the discovery on a Southwest flight over the U.S., a human heart left in the cargo hold. They had to turn the passenger jet around. Also, the faulty Brinks truck, money raining down, drivers jumping out to grab it, then causing a number of accidents in doing so. And there's news tonight about Janet Jackson, about Stevie Nicks, and others you'll surely know. We'll be right back. To the index of other news tonight, and the human heart found in a Southwest flight bound for Dallas. The plane was forced to return to Seattle. The heart was mistakenly left in the cargo hold during a previous flight. It was reportedly being sent to a tissue processor for a possible future transplant. There was no patient waiting for that heart. That's a good thing. It was raining money. Drivers jumping from their cars in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Cash falling from a Brinks truck on Route 3. Drivers grabbing the money, but then causing several accidents in doing so. Brinks says they want the money back. Good luck. The new space race tonight, Virgin Galactic flying its first astronauts right to the edge of space using a rocket-powered plane. 2 pilots on the board, the Spaceship Two soaring 51.4 miles above the Earth. The pilot celebrating with a victory roll. The company hoping to send tourists into space next. And tonight, the new inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Janet Jackson joining her brother Michael in the Jackson 5. Stevie Nicks, the only woman to be inducted twice. Joining them, Def Leppard, Radiohead, The Cure, Roxy Music, and the Zombies. When we come back here tonight, the 9-year-old girl who saved recess. Her mom helped. Finally tonight here, America Strong, the 9-year-old girl and the mom who just saved recess for many. Zoe Harrison was just a year old when she was adopted. Born with cerebral palsy, growing up in Ithaca, Michigan, her parents, Jennifer and John, wanted a normal life for her. But when it came time to go outside for recess, 9-year-old Zoe told them it took too long to bundle up in her wheelchair.
I couldn't, play.
Because by the time she was bundled up, recess was nearly over. So her mom got to work, designing a special coat, combining 2 coats into one.
We just simply unzip it and flip it open, and she's good to go.
She's like, let's try this on. And I'm like, what the heck is that?
What it was a solution.
All right, there you go.
Tonight, that video has now been viewed nearly 12 million times. Zoe goes to recess, and her parents went looking for a patent, now making those coats for others, and tonight telling us they're on back order.
I'm very thankful for my mom.
And for that coat now being worn on playgrounds around the world. Incredible idea. Those coats are called Xability, and we thank them and you for watching on a Thursday night. I'm David Muir. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Kids,